Ready? All right, I'd like to reconvene the meeting for the St. Mary's County Board of Education for Wednesday, May 6th, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
indivisible,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have to work.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, roll call, Mary,
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And myself is an aye. All right, just as a note of, or point of note of how this meeting's going to work, so we all understand that Governor Hogan is going to have a press conference sometime around 3 o'clock. So at that point, we're going to work through our board meeting agenda, and then our fearless leaders are going to switch our feed, hopefully, over onto Hogan's press conference so we can listen to the announcements that are being made. Then, so our board meeting will not pause. We will still be, in open session, and then at that point, then we'll come back and continue the agenda as it is published. Okay. So with that, Dr. Smith is monitoring the press conference feed to see when that comes up. So if I cut you off in midstream, I'm really sorry. Mrs. Weaver, your turn. Board reports.
I have nothing for. You go ahead and cut me off now.
I'll cut you off
You
now.
were going to talk about your stuff.
All right, Mrs. Allen, do you have anything?
I spent time yesterday morning watching the commissioners' meeting and their budget work session, and as we can understand, they are concerned about moving forward with budget, and they're going to have to make some cuts to budget items. We won't know what those are until next week. As they ended, they said that as of next Tuesday, they would have to come up with about $2.5 million worth of cuts. And they will be spending the week considering that, having the conversation about it, and they'll have their conversation next week, next Tuesday, and they have to come out of that work session with a balanced budget. So we are standing by to see what that looks like. I will say that I was disappointed to learn that that of the $19.8 million that are coming to the county for COVID-19 relief, that we will not be getting more than about $50,000 out of that, and that's for gloves and such.
Okay, we're cutting off Mrs. Allen, and we're going to Governor Hogan's press conference.
All right, let me, oh, come on, why it won't give me my, hold on.
There's volume.
I can't get volume.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, the volume.
To prepare for a spike in patients from that
there it is.
outbreak. The CDC is on the ground in Salisbury to assist with contact tracing, and we continue to coordinate with our partners in Delaware and Virginia in an effort to protect the Delmarva region's poultry industry and the national food supply chain. This week, we are also expanding testing for healthcare workers and first responders at local fire and EMS departments, and for state employee healthcare workers at the Departments of Health, Public Safety and Corrections, and Juvenile Services. This expanded testing capability also allows us to expand the hours and days of operations at all of the VEEP drive-in, drive-through testing sites statewide. We set a goal of increasing our surge capacity by an additional 6,000 hospital beds, and we have exceeded that goal. We now have an additional 8,100 surge beds, which includes 2,400 ICU beds across the state. With our highest concentration of cases in Prince George's County and Montgomery County, the Laurel Hospital, which we reopened 2 weeks ago, is expanding its operations even further by adding another new wing. New rooms at Adventist Hospital in Tacoma Park are also nearly complete. Our multi-agency task force has been working around the clock, 7 days a week, focused on increasing our supply of desperately needed PPE, and they are making great progress. We have recently acquired 4.5 million KN95 masks, 600,000 N95 masks, 150,000 medical gowns, 1.1 million face shields, 3.5 million surgical gloves, and much more is coming into our warehouses on a daily basis. This week, we launched the Maryland Manufacturing Network Supplier Portal, which is an online platform that helps connect our Maryland suppliers with buyers who are looking to source PPE and other critical supplies. Due to the tremendous and urgent demand and the serious lack of worldwide supply of PPE, states have had to go to extraordinary lengths to acquire this critical protective equipment on an emergency basis. Unfortunately, across the country, there have been some cases of fraud. Last week, I directed the Department of General Services to cancel an emergency PPE order for masks and ventilators. And we directed Attorney General Brian Frosch to begin an investigation of a company called Blue Flame Medical for failure to perform and for potential misrepresentation. Today, it is being reported that the U.S. Department of Justice has now also launched a federal investigation into this company's interactions with multiple states, including California, which reportedly wired $500 million to this company for masks. It is unconscionable that anyone would try to exploit this pandemic for profit or for personal gain, which is why I'm so pleased that we were able to act so swiftly to uncover Blue Flame's potential wrongdoings and to alert the authorities. The final building block is a robust contact tracing operation, and we have executed a contract with the National Opinion Research Center, the nation's oldest and largest university-based research firm, to quadruple our disease investigation capability, enabling us to contact up to 1,000 new cases per day. The hiring of those contact tracers is already well underway, with more than 900 applicants across 20 of Maryland's 24 jurisdictions. I want to thank our entire team for working so hard and making so much progress, putting all 4 of these necessary building blocks into place in order to help us to better attack this virus from all directions all across the state. When this crisis began, I said that we were home to some of the top health research facilities in the world, and I hoped that we might be a part of developing treatments and perhaps even a vaccine for this deadly virus. Yesterday, the very first patients in the United States were given a test vaccine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine in partnership with Pfizer and BioNTech as part of a global COVID-19 vaccine development program. We're also pleased to announce that Gilead has donated 1,600 doses of remdesivir to the state of Maryland. This is the only drug proven in a clinical study to help with COVID-19. We will be immediately deploying these initial doses to Prince George's and Montgomery counties, where we have the highest number of cases. All of this puts us much closer to being able to launch stage 1 of our reopening. When I introduced the roadmap to recovery, I said that if Marylanders continued staying home and continued practicing social distancing, I was hopeful that the key numbers we were tracking, the rate of hospitalizations and the number of patients in ICU, would potentially plateau, perhaps as early May. We said if we did start to see a leveling trend in those metrics, we would be in position to begin stage 1 of the recovery plan. Fortunately, we are beginning to see those encouraging numbers. Over the past 7 days, we have seen a good trend in hospitalizations with 5 straight days downward and then a little bump up yesterday. But overall, we are down slightly from where we were a week ago. Even more encouraging is that our ICU numbers have been basically flat, level at a plateau for 8 straight days. If these trends continue into next week, we will be ready to lift the stay-at-home order and to begin stage 1 of our recovery plan. As our plan has spelled out, that would mean the reopening of certain types of businesses and lower risk community, religious, and quality of life activities. Yesterday, we had another call with our coronavirus recovery team, which includes some of the smartest scientists, public health, business, and labor experts in the world. This team is advising us and guiding Maryland's reopening and recovery process. We have also received reports from 15 industry-specific business advisory groups, including small businesses, along with churches and nonprofits. And each of these work groups has collaborated on proposed recommendations and guidelines to help determine how they can prepare to reopen in ways that can keep their employees, their customers, and members of their congregations safe. We continue to work very closely with all of them as they prepare for their phased, safe, and gradual reopenings. Marylanders have made incredible sacrifices in recent weeks, and because of that, thousands of lives have been saved. And the numbers of infections are so much better than they would have been. And while we still do need several more days of good metrics, our coronavirus recovery team, including our doctors and scientists, has agreed that there are some additional things that we can do safely right now prior to the lifting of the stay-at-home order and the beginning of stage 1. As long as Marylanders continue to take personal responsibility, continue to practice social distancing, and continue to follow the guidance from public health officials. One of the first actions we took was to stop elective surgeries and procedures at our hospitals and healthcare facilities in order to protect hospital capacity and to preserve the supply of PPE. Now that we have both of these building blocks in a better position, many Maryland Department may have put off important procedures, screenings, and other things that they really need to attend to. If there's something that you've had to delay, like a PET scan or a biopsy, an angioplasty, or an orthopedic procedure, you should be able to now take care of those important time-sensitive procedures now. Mother's Day weekend is coming up, and I know how anxious people are to get outside, both for their physical and their mental well-being. And we also know that outside activity is safer than inside activity. And after much discussion yesterday, all of our doctors and scientists are now in agreement that we are able to move forward with resuming some additional lower risk outdoor activities. So effective tomorrow at 7 a.m., the list of safe outdoor activities will be broadened to now include golf, tennis, boating, fishing, camping, and other activities. We are opening closed functions at our state parks, including all state beaches for walking and exercise, as well as safe playgrounds at state parks. And local governments will have the flexibility to take similar actions at their discretion. However, it will remain critical that you continue to follow public health guidance, continue to practice physical distancing, and most of all, that you continue to take actions to keep yourself and your fellow Marylanders safe. Now, I realize that these are only small steps, and that they may be of little comfort to those who are out of work and who are struggling financially. But it is thanks to all of you and your incredible sacrifices that we are making great progress. We are flattening the curve, and we are preparing to launch our reopening plan in order to safely get people back to work, to safely get our small businesses back open again, to get our economy back on track so that Maryland and our nation can defeat this virus and come back stronger and better than ever. And with that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Dr. David Marcozzi, who is the COVID-19 Incident Commander for the University of Maryland Medical System and a member of our coronavirus recovery team. Dr. Marcozzi?
Good afternoon. Governor Hogan, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for developing a sound, smart approach through your Maryland Strong Roadmap to Recovery plan. As the governor announced today, it is a welcome step forward on a path towards our state's recovery. But it must be done with the necessary steps and precautions in place, and frankly, some common sense. As the weather warms up and we move to more outdoor activities, we need to keep a few things in mind. Number one, this virus is still with us, and we need to be sensitive to any concerns we might have with regard to spreading this virus amongst all of our citizens, particularly those who are more fragile. So therefore, we need to maintain physical distancing. We need to continue practices like hand hygiene and cough hygiene appropriately. When we congregate, we need to congregate in small group sizes so that this virus doesn't have a chance to spread amongst us easily. If possible, please wear masks. It decreases the spread of the virus from me to you if I'm wearing a mask. And as I mentioned, it is important to protect those at high risk from this virus, whether indoors or outdoors. To continue to flatten the curve, we as Marylanders need to be consistently making the right choices for ourselves, for our friends, and our family. This is time to take care of ourselves, both physically and mentally. Let's make sure we do both. We can and we need to, and the opportunity exists in the healthcare system to do just that. I want to emphasize there's no reason to delay time-sensitive care, particularly for conditions that you're concerned about having an emergency. Maryland's hospitals and doctors' offices are able to, or are taking steps so that they are able to, care for patients during this pandemic through new standard operating procedures, through more PPE, personal protective equipment, and staff education. In addition to going to the doctor's office, doctors are actually using telehealth as an opportunity to engage their patients. And you can actually see a patient for mental health concerns or physical concerns right now through your phone or your computer. Complaints like minor physical ailments or mental health concerns can appropriately be addressed through a telehealth portal, and your provider is available to do so right now. I want to make sure I give an opportunity to thank, during Nurses Week, all the nurses that are on the front lines of our healthcare system in our state. Thank you for being there for us. Thank you for being there for our patients. And we support you in the work that you're doing through the next few weeks and months. Also, thank you to all of you who went out and went to work in the grocery stores or the trash collectors. Those of you allowed the healthcare providers to continue their work to make sure that we're on the front lines and able to care for our patients effectively. In the end, hospitals are the right place for you if you need to go for care. They have taken the necessary steps to make sure they're safe so that if you need help, you can get the care that you need. Again, Governor, thank you for taking the right steps. Thank you for making our state safe. Thank you for being cautious and being deliberative with the actions you're taking right now towards our recovery.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marcozzi. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Karen Salmon, State Superintendent of our school system. We'll have some announcements regarding our statewide schools. Dr. Salmon.
Thank you, Governor. And again, it's a privilege to serve under your leadership. I would like to start this afternoon by giving a few updates on our efforts regarding childcare and our meal distribution program. We've been able to distribute $34 million in payments to over 3,700 childcare providers serving children of essential personnel, and all payments are now up to date. Our early childhood team worked around the clock to deliver more than $29 million in payments to our providers just in the last week. This monumental effort completed the first round of invoice processing. We will continue to work diligently with our partners at the Comptroller's Office and each of our essential personnel childcare providers to keep these payments up to date. I want to thank our providers for their continued service to Maryland's children and families and for their patience as we all work together through these unusual circumstances. Our meal program continues with success. Since the beginning of school closures in March, we've served nearly 8 million meals to school-age children in Maryland. I want to thank our local food directors for this ongoing effort, as well as our partners at the National Guard, led by Colonel Gowan, for assisting our school systems with delivery and distribution. We could not continue this undertaking without everyone's contributions, and I'm very, very proud of the work being accomplished. Today, I am announcing the closure of schools for the remainder of the 2019-20 academic school year. After extensive discussions with the Maryland State Board of Education, the Maryland Health Department, and additional health experts advising the governor, I am convinced this is the appropriate decision in order to continue to protect the health and safety of our students, educators, staff, and all members of school communities throughout Maryland. Although we will not see students and educators return to the classroom before the scheduled end of this school year, online and distance learning opportunities will continue. To guide school systems and school communities on a path forward, the State Department of Education is releasing a comprehensive plan for long-term recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. The Maryland Together Recovery Plan for Education was drafted in collaboration with the State Board, local school superintendents, and with input from a variety of stakeholders throughout our state. This document lays the groundwork for the coming months as we maintain and improve online learning opportunities and identifies methods for recovering any lost instruction time that has occurred as a result of COVID-19. The plan also establishes the foundation for school systems as they begin to consider how they will bring students and educators back into school buildings once they are able to in a safe way. I want to emphasize that the recovery plan we are sharing with members of the public and the education community is not prescriptive, and nothing included indicates any mandate or requirement that school systems must follow. However, it outlines a set of options and considerations developed from best practices and available research across the country. Our plan identifies several sample schedules and calendar ideas that could be used and dovetails into the Governor's Maryland Strong Roadmap to Recovery Plan. At this point, we do not envision that schools would be included in Stage 1 of the Governor's plan, but different methods of returning to school could be included in Stage 2 and 3. For example, some strategies for small group learning with proper social distancing in school buildings could be included in Stage 2, such as bringing various groups of students back on an alternating A and B day schedule, or alternating weeks of in-person attendance with distance learning between different groups of students. School systems could also choose to bring students back to address specific students' needs, such as students with disabilities and English language learners. A full return of the student body to in-person instruction would be a part of Stage 3. Schools will restructure their day-to-day operations to be in concert with public health guidance. As it's referenced in the plan, schedules for instruction, meals, and transportation may all require modifications. Any return of students and staff to the classroom depends on the circumstances in each school system, and local school systems will have the flexibility to adapt the model to best serve their needs. We will continue to update this document while addressing additional issues as they come up related to the recovery process for schools, and we will be certain to engage stakeholders for their input. As I have previously stated, for our high school seniors and their families wondering about graduation ceremonies, those decisions will be made by each local school system superintendent and school board. However, I have been assured by each superintendent that they are collaborating with their local community to be certain that recognition is moving forward and that seniors will have the opportunity to be recognized for their exceptional accomplishments. I have reminded superintendents that however they choose to honor the class of 2020, they must remain in compliance with the Governor's executive orders. I certainly understand the significant challenges that we face as we move forward to restore public education in Maryland. However, I'm confident that with the leadership from local superintendents and the collaboration among superintendents, educators, parents, and members of our school communities, that we can get through this crisis together and come out stronger than ever for all of our Maryland students. Thank you.
And I'll stop share there. We're in the middle of board reports. I do appreciate the flexibility to be able to jump onto the governor's Twitter feed. I do apologize that the original Twitter feed was an expanded, showed a comment window, and there might have been some comments there that were inappropriate. I guess that's the challenge with doing press releases on Twitter.
Right.
If we did it through a normal fashion, there wouldn't be the opportunity to comment, and there wouldn't be the profane things that were shared there. So I did click back to a smaller box. And I do apologize if anybody saw a comment that was offensive to them. Again, it's the challenge of a press conference being held on Twitter. So if you would indulge
Why don't we
me.
just jump straight? No one who wants to hear from us anymore, so
Okay,
we will jump straight to you with the superintendent's report, and then if Mary and Jim have anything on their board reports, we can circle back with them.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm hopeful that we have a great many of our parents and seniors watching this video, or if they're not watching this video, as soon as we're done, it'll be posted back, and you may watch it as well at your leisure and at a time most appropriate. We had over 7,500 people view the previous, so I know people know how to find the video and share the video. So let me begin by talking a little bit about what is most pressing on seniors' minds. What do the next several weeks hold? And as I've heard from countless parents and students, passionate parents and students, when can I get my cap and gowns so that I might be able to make memories with my family, capturing images and things such as that? We originally scheduled the distribution of caps and gowns at our schools this week. We were informed that to be in compliance with the governor's executive order as it was being interpreted, we could not go forward with having students or their parents drive to school, as the gathering of caps and gowns was considered non-essential travel. I will tell you that based on what was just shared from the governor, we are not in stage one. We are not out of the stay-at-home order. We are not out of the non-essential travel, although it looks like that's amended in some fashion. So we will, I'll wait and see exactly how that is written, this loosening of being able to do an outdoor activity. I have been in constant communication with our health officer, Dr. Mina Brewster, and I need to publicly tell and laud her for the work that she has done over the last 2 months. We talk about people who are tirelessly working on behalf of others in the community. Certainly Dr. Brewster and all those who are working with her are tireless in the planning for whatever this county may need going forward. Been speaking with her daily. I will review whatever the governor shares, and we'll craft a plan. She absolutely positively supports anything and everything that we can do to recognize our seniors within the parameters that are being provided from the governor of the state of Maryland. If, as of tomorrow morning, we may move forward with outdoor recreational activities, such as going to the beach or walking in a park or playing golf, I can assure you there is nothing more appropriate than getting fresh air in an organized, appropriate fashion at one of our schools, and in the process picking up your cap and gowns. That would be it would be an outdoor activity, and it would be appropriately spaced. So that being said, and I want to make very clear, and I've been asked by board members to make this very clear, the Board of Education has no prior knowledge of what may happen on Twitter and at the Twitter conferences of the governor or of the state superintendent. The superintendents have no idea what the state superintendent is going to say before these announcements. I was on a conference call with the state superintendent and all the other superintendents this morning, and we were not informed that we were going to close schools until the end of the year. Many people have made that assumption, and it has certainly been alluded to. And if you read the governor's plan, it definitely demonstrates that there isn't a path to do that. But we were not told concretely until everybody saw it on Twitter. And that's why we had to go to it live, so that our remarks are in real time. So with that being said, I would like to...
Well, you pull that up. I have one point to make.
Yes.
So for everyone who's listening, with the conversation that Governor Hogan said about how he was going to, I don't know, let's like phase one light or whatever he is about loosening some of the outdoor restrictions, when he issues an executive order, it comes as a formal document coming out from the governor's office. Then a few hours later, we have an interpretation of that order in layman's terms, so to speak, from the Office of the Attorney General of the state of Maryland. So in order so we don't, misread anything that Governor Hogan is intended, most of the decisions that everyone makes, and not just us, but across the state, is precluded on what that Attorney General document kind of puts down into layman's terms. And it's a little bit more specific, and I'm assuming will most likely allude to several of the things that Governor Hogan mentioned in the press conference. So if you see the executive order come out right away at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and you don't hear anything from us for a few hours, that may be the reason why, is because we just, we are waiting for further clarification to ensure that, we aren't overstepping what is intended.
And then we would also, before we do anything, we make sure that we are coordinating with the local health officer who represents county government, and Sheriff Cameron, who is law enforcement for St. Mary's County proper.
Correct.
So, based on what we just heard, we again go back to, these are not decisions that are being made by the Board of Education, by the superintendent, by the sheriff, by the health officer, by the local government. They're being made by the governor of the state of Maryland. He has building blocks. They've got stage 1. We are not at stage 1. Governor Hogan has alluded to the fact that we may get to stage 1 perhaps next week, but we are not at stage 1. The most important part of stage 1 for us and for our plans for our seniors is the lifting of the stay-at-home order completely, so that we might be able to move forward with our plan as we had laid it out last week. Stage 2 and stage 3, we'll talk about when we get there. Let's focus on trying to get to stage 1. We already talked about how the things that we considered with the class of 2020. We already talked about how we were going to afford them an opportunity to walk across the stage to receive a diploma and for it to be videotaped. If we get to stage 1, we can absolutely move forward with this plan. We are not in violation of any element of the executive order. We have already walked this through with our local health officer. So stage 1, we would be able to sequence this in such a fashion that everything we spoke about we'd be able to do. Where we are right now is we're going to have to modify our timeline. So, right now we're in the May 4th through 8th, where we were supposed to be delivering, picking up, coordinating cap and gowns. We are going to need the next 2 days, tomorrow, to understand exactly what the revised governor's executive order affords us to do, and the local decision making that's underneath that umbrella. The school system will coordinate with the county government and the health officer and the sheriff's department. We will have a conversation tomorrow with all of the building principals to talk through the resources that they have in their building, because if you don't lift the restriction ban, we are still limited with actually who's in the buildings and what we can do. On Friday, we will send a revised letter to all senior families and senior students, letting them know exactly where we stand, exactly what we have discussed, and exactly what the plan is moving forward. Next week, no matter what, students will receive their cap and gowns. They will either be authorized to come to school and pick them up. They will either be put in the mail and mailed out to everybody and through expedited mail. And let me first understand that a cap and gown, to package it, to stamp it, to run it through, that's 1,200 things. It could be as much as $10 depending upon the weight. So we're talking, if we were to mail it, it'd be about a $10,000 expense. So we're going to try to do everything we can to, and then we'd be dependent upon the Postal Service for however long that may be. And then we'd also be dependent that all of your addresses and all your information and all that is correct. Much easier if you come and pick it up. Or if you can't come and pick it up, then we will figure out a way to deliver them to your home. We have had incredible, thoughtful, generous parents offer to volunteer. We have had staff members volunteer. We have had at least one county commissioner offer to help in any way. We have had the sheriff offer to coordinate in any way. Like, we live in an incredible community, and we will figure out a way. So no matter what, seniors, I apologize for the delay of 1 week, but next week, whatever that process may be, you will have your cap and gown, and also any other related materials that they have at the schools, be they yearbooks and or tassels and or collars or whatever they may have. They will be in your hand as quickly as we can next week. Please, parents, give us 2 days to figure out how to do it with the available staff and the available resources that we have. If the governor moves forward with and actually moves us to stage 1, then we'll be in perfect shape for the next week, where we will do video production setup. We will get all the plans from all the schools. We will have submitted performances. We'll get the photo montages from everybody who will have hopefully taken a great picture of their child in their cap and gowns, with their stoles, with their cords, with their stuff. And then Friday, May 22nd, we'll have the student speeches, the principal speeches. We'll all get together to try to do our speeches. The week that we would have done commencement, we will do commencement of a fashion, having the students arrive at a location, quite probably the tech center, walk across the stage, and receive their diploma. We will videotape it. We will stream it live. If the governor suddenly leaps to and says you can have 25 people at a gathering, we will consider how to coordinate parents being able to participate and be present. As of right now, that isn't a possibility. As long as the 10-person rule stays, we can't accommodate a parent being there. We can videotape it and live stream it. And I guarantee the live stream that we do in high def is going to be as good as anything you probably could have done if you're there. We will then finish those in 3 days. May 29th, we'll put it all together. We'll get all we'll get it all stitched together, and then we wouldn't actually be showing the videos until the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. This is the plan that we have right now. We have just modified it, pushed it by a week. We are still under the purview of the governor, and so as of right now, I think we can come up with a plan to get the caps and gowns in everybody's hands, and we can draw upon the incredible resources of this really engaged and passionate community. The actual delivery of the diplomas, we believe that if we get to stage 1, we should be just fine. And although we won't be able to do it on the night of the graduations as originally planned, the following week everybody will have a senior commencement video that will be live streamed and can be publicly celebrated by all those in the county. That's where we are right now. Please understand that we are subject to whatever might happen, but that is the plan as we stand. I will look forward to Zooming with and speaking with all of our principals and all of our people. We'll probably see if we can maybe coordinate a Zoom with some of our class of 2020 student leaders on Friday as well, just to give them an opportunity to talk to us and let us know what's on their mind and give them an understanding of exactly where we stand with all of this. So with that, that's really all I have to share right now. As for the state superintendent announcing that the schools would be closed till the end of the school year, again, we assumed as much. We have planned accordingly. The online learning that the children are engaged in, the continuity of learning plan that we are currently under, carries us to the end of the year with an appropriate level of course content. We do have monitoring in place. We discussed at the last board meeting what we would do for calculation of final grades in consideration of material done in the 4th marking period in the event that we don't return to school. Really, what we presented last week as a possibility looks like that's going to be pretty much the reality of the end of the 2020 school year. So with that, that's all I have for my superintendent update, and I appreciate the indulgence for 40-some minutes worth of your time.
No problem. All right, Jim, do you have anything for your board report?
No, I do not.
Nagina?
I don't have much other than week 4 of online learning, and we high schoolers that are taking their AP exams. Those are next week. So that's going to be exciting, or as exciting as it can be, really. But yeah, that's all I have.
Mary?
I just want to thank everybody, the superintendent and his staff, the principals, the Department of Support and Services, and everyone, community members who are working diligently with us so that we can get through this pandemic and do what's best for our seniors. They've been feeding students and doing everything. I just can't thank everybody enough. And we're all in this together, and we're going to get through this together. So thanks everybody for their hard work.
Okay, mine's just going to be a quick segue to our first recognition, which is Teacher Appreciation Week. I just want to say that for, with all of the comments and messages and phone calls that I personally have received over the past week, I appreciate all of the support for those parents of students who have reached out to me in regard to the graduation plans, the change in cap and gown pickup. What happened was not within our purview to control. If anyone out there thinks that Dr. Smith and the staff and the teachers or anyone within this SMCPS organization is not working as hard as they possibly can in order to make sure that, our seniors are recognized and we are doing as much as we possibly can for them, as well as every other student from, their 11th grade year on down. So, just to echo Dr. Smith's statements after the press conference, you just really need to be patient. And I know we are the only ones that are talking to you and kind of telling you what you can and can't do. So all of your frustration seems to come our way. And that's fine, we will accept it. But please, do not for any single moment think that we are not just as torn apart by this as what you are, or affected by it. Because a lot of these teachers have had your children for 13 plus years, depending on whether they started with us in pre-K or even Head Start. So just know that everyone truly does have the best interests of our students at heart, and every single decision that is made and scrutinized and analyzed is all about the kids. So, and with that, I will turn it over to hopefully Mrs. Delahunt, who will talk about Teacher Appreciation Week. And it does look a little different for everyone this year, but it is still extremely important to everyone nonetheless. So.
Good afternoon, Ms. Delahunt. Let me pull up your presentation for you.
All right, Dr. Smith.
And as we go through stuff, if I'm behind and you need me to forward through a slide, just go forward, and I promise I will go forward.
All right, yes, sir, I will do that. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor and privilege to be here to share our unified appreciation for those amazing individuals who work with our students every day. And this afternoon, the Board of Education recognizes our teachers on this official week of Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4th through the 8th. And the official theme presented by the National PTA is "We Love Teachers." And they say, get emotional, get it? And thank a teacher. And in their words, teachers change the lives of millions of children every day. Their immense work and impact moves us beyond words. And so throughout these challenging times, especially now, our teachers have done even more to continue education through distance and online learning. And it's been fantastic. All to ensure that every student has the tools they need to reach their full potential. So in the words of Rita Pearson, every child needs a champion. And an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best they can possibly be. So today, that's what we're doing. We are thanking our champions. We are grateful to our teachers, administrators, and our support staff for making a tremendous difference in the lives of our students every day. Dr. Smith, you can stay with that slide. And although we cannot be together in person to show our amazing teachers how we appreciate them, we can celebrate from a distance. And in addition to mailing personal appreciation notes There's been Teacher Appreciation Spirit Weeks and tweeting out messages and PTA, PTO celebrations. Several of our school communities have come up with virtually innovative ways to show how much the teachers are loved and valued. For example, at Lexington Park Elementary, they posted our dojos and Twitter love notes from families and community members and administrators. They've mailed a COVID care package with inspirational bookmarks and small journal and a panda pen. They've done movie trailers and PowerPoints for their teachers. At Piney Point, their PTA has created a special theme of home run staff, and they've sent emails, videos, thank you messages, and pictures of students working virtually for teachers and support staff. So those are just a few things that our schools are doing to celebrate. And as we're advancing towards the slides, this year, we've also found innovative ways to express our gratitude. Dr. Smith, if you could go back. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
There you go. We'll get together.
There you go. There you go. To express our gratitude by posting special thank you messages on our Padlet platform. And so what we have here is a couple of slides of those messages of appreciation for our outstanding teachers across the county. And now we can go to that site. Thank you. Speaking of our outstanding teachers, we would like to highlight our SMECO Outstanding Teachers of the Year for their excellence in teaching in the areas of mathematics, science, and STEM. That would be Lindsay Hayden from Dinard Elementary School, Heather McClellan from Chesapeake Public Charter School, Dorothy Nelson, Spring Ridge Middle School, Kristen Pierce from Esperanza Middle School, and Lindsay Toothaker from Benjamin Banneker Elementary School. Congratulations to all of those outstanding teachers. Next slide. And the Board of Education presents resolutions proclaiming Teacher Education Week by recognizing individuals who represent the quality and commitment of educators and employees in St. Mary's County. And so this year, our Maryland Outstanding Teacher of the Year representative is Ms. Dina Brown Taylor. She is an English language arts teacher at Spring Ridge Middle School. We're also recognizing our Washington Post Outstanding Teacher of the Year representative, Dr. Alma Sharon. She is the instructional resource teacher at Lexington Park Elementary School. Next, our Washington Post Outstanding Principal of the Year representative is Dr. Jake Heibel, principal of Great Mills High School. Our Educational Support Professional of the Year, Mr. Charles Herbert, Building Service Manager at Leonardtown Middle School. And our Leader of Excellence Award winner, Mr. Kevin Wright, Supervisor of Social Studies. And now, to express our ongoing appreciation for our exceptional staff, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Smith to read the resolution recognizing Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you.
All right. Well, and so obviously, if we were under normal circumstances, we would certainly have all of these incredible people here before us to recognize them. And in the upcoming, I think it was next week, we would have had our employee recognition evening where every single person who was recognized as an outstanding educator at their individual schools would get these wonderful plaques memorializing their exceptional performance in their task that year. And so we will make sure in some way we deliver them to all of the people over the summer. We won't wait till stage 3. We hope that maybe in stage 2, with the appropriate PPE, we'll be able to find time to be with all of them and recognize them. And ultimately, I can't wait to see Miss Dina Brown Taylor, our excellent, incredible Teacher of the Year, and give her the big plaque. We are going to be organizing an opportunity at the next upcoming board meeting to have each person kind of find a moment to zoom in and share some of their insights as to what it means to work in St. Mary's County Public Schools and to be involved with our incredible kids. So there is a resolution, and I would normally be handing this to somebody, so I have nobody to hand it to, so I just have a printed copy in a little bit larger font so I don't have to put on my readers. So if I might, I'll read that resolution for Teacher Week. Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4th through 8th, 2020. Thank a teacher. Whereas the staff of St. Mary's County Public Schools takes great pride in delivering exceptional instruction to almost 8,000 students, and whereas teachers, support staff, and administrators all play a vital role in expanding students' minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams for the future, and whereas teachers keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and whereas educators mold students of diverse backgrounds to become productive citizens who will shape the future of our great country, and whereas educational support professionals contribute in various ways to the success of students, teachers, and the community, and whereas administrators work diligently to help students and teachers excel, and their leadership and hard work are essential to the success of our schools and communities, and whereas support staff, teachers, and administrators are exceptionally dedicated and committed to providing high-quality instructional opportunities to our students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of St. Mary's County recognizes the week of May 4th through 8th, 2020 as Teacher Appreciation Week and urges all citizens of St. Mary's County to take time to honor those who help to make our school system great. And it's signed this 6th day of May 2020 by the Board of Education. Thank you, teachers, and I am so sorry that we are in a situation where we can't lay eyes on you and shake your hands and hug you. You are very loved, and you are certainly very appreciated by everybody in this great community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Delahunt.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillahunt. That was an excellent presentation. Congratulations to all the outstanding educators. Well done. And they are key pillars of the community. And I don't know where we would be without our educators. Thank you for that excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Ms. Dillahunt.
Okay, let's see. Next up, we have School Nurse Day with Ms. Long and Ms. Metcalf. I see Mrs. Long.
I am here, and Miss Metcalf and Ms. Metcalf, the Supervisor of Health Services, and 3 of our nurses actually are probably watching us now. They would have been in your presence, of course, today. The nurses and Ms. Metcalf are representing all of our school nurses on this special day. Ms. Katie Bonner, nurse at Letty Marshall Dent Elementary School, Ms. Catherine Robeson, nurse at Leonardtown Middle School, and Ms. Sharon Page, nurse at Hollywood Elementary School, would have been today with us in the boardroom, but now we're watching. The theme for this year's recognition is supporting students in times of crisis. This theme reinforces the changing times of 2020. Whether present in the health room or working virtually, the school nurse takes on a variety of roles every day. The school nurse juggles a complex array of medical and social issues and is often the first place students think to go when they are injured or do not feel well. For some students, the school nurse is the only healthcare professional they see routinely. On National School Nurse Day, we ask you to remember everything the school nurse does for students in the school community. Although we are not in our school buildings, our nurses are finding ways to connect with families and provide needed support and education via phone, email communication, and newsletters. They are also supporting the community during this time by volunteering in food banks, with community food growing programs, and by sewing personnel protective equipment products. Nurse Robeson and Nurse Bonner are co-chairing a district-wide nurse committee that is currently reviewing and revising the entire school nurse manual to ensure best practice upon return to school. 100% of our primary and secondary school nurses are actively participating in this huge project. So thank you to all of our school nurses for the amazing work that you do for our students and school communities each and every day. Dr. Smith, at this time, I would like to invite you to share a resolution for our nurses.
Oh, and once again, I'd be called back up. I'd get to stand right there, and I'd be able to hand the proclamation to any one of our 3 fantastic nurses who are representing all 3 levels of St. Mary's County Public Schools. But here's the resolution. Wednesday, May 6th, 2020, National School Nurse Day. Whereas May 6th, 2020 has been designated as National School Nurse Day in the school systems across our great nation. And whereas school nurses promote a healthy and safe school environment for all students and staff, they collaborate with parents, other health professionals, and other school staff to provide services for students that promote optimum health for academic success. And whereas school nurses provide case management services and actively collaborate with others to build student and family capacity for adaptation, self-management, self-advocacy, and learning. And whereas school nurses provide the necessary professional expertise to identify, assess, plan, implement, and evaluate the health needs of the school community. And whereas school nurses identify health problems, develop plans, and provide treatment for students with severe health needs, including anaphylaxis, that's it, diabetes and asthma, in order that all children can access learning and be safe at school. With the support of school nurses, students with chronic illnesses are able to attend school with fewer interruptions in learning. And whereas school nurses play an integral role in assisting families to access health care for their students, school health program services emphasize prevention of disease and promotion of health and health services, health counseling, and health education. School nursing is a specialized practice of professional nursing that advocates the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievement of students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of St. Mary's County recognizes May 6th, 2020 as National School Nurse Day in St. Mary's County Public Schools, and that all staff and students are encouraged to recognize this event and participate in its observance. Signed this 6th day of May, 2020. And a thank you to the nurses who are on our board as well. Obviously, without dedicated professionals who care very much for others, we would find ourselves in a much dire strait than we are in. Certainly, it is wonderful to see where we are in the United States and lauding the heroic efforts of our nurses. May that be every day hence. Because while we are certainly calling upon people in the deepest way right now, nurses have always been the very front line of helping us stay healthy. So, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone have anything else?
I just want to say a shout out to some of my favorite nurses that I used to work with, had the privilege of working with, and now are in the school system. Amy Howe, who we went through our master's degree together, Bonnie Skinner, and Cherry Dillahay. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Long, for a great presentation, and I appreciate all of our nurses. I remember the days when we did not have a nurse in every school. So we've come a long way.
Yeah.
We have a nurse in every school to take care of our students and our staff, and they are greatly appreciated. Thank you, and congratulations to them.
Thank you.
All right, next up are our pupil personnel workers.
All right, let me pull up that for you. There it is.
And we have Mrs. Long again.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we are continuing to celebrate, and I am sure that Ms. Kate Weaver and our 7 pupil personnel workers are watching from home as we recognize them in celebration of Pupil Personnel Worker Appreciation Day today. While we are not in our school buildings, PPWs have continued to support our families, students, and school staff. During this unique time, PPWs are working closely with our community partners to support and eliminate barriers for students and families, such as those living in poverty, challenged by homelessness, experiencing mental health challenges, and living in foster care. This coordination of services has led to connecting students to their ongoing learning opportunities, providing families with food, clothing, shoes, personal items, and books. This work would not be possible without the help of our school personnel and, equally important, our community partners. The next slide shows all of our pupil personnel workers from left to right. We're recognizing Elizabeth Foote, Annette Wood, Annie Gast, Melissa Sigmund, Anastasia Newberry, Jamie Walker, Ms. Kate Weaver, our supervisor, and Kim McElligott. And at this time, Dr. Smith, if you can share the resolution.
Yes, I would love to share the resolution. So again, May 6th, 2020, Pupil Personnel Worker Day. whereas May 6th, 2020 has been designated as Pupil Personnel Worker Day in St. Mary's County, and whereas pupil personnel workers are recognized for serving our students, promoting the opportunities for every child to experience a safe and healthy environment, and whereas pupil personnel workers are specialists trained to consider and assess the needs of the total child and serve as the school's liaison with the family, community organizations, and social agencies to foster a child's physical, psychological, social, and intellectual growth, and whereas pupil personnel workers work collaboratively with the resources of the home, school, and community essential to the good mental, emotional, and physical health of each child necessary to advance effective teaching, learning, and achievement in schools, and whereas pupil personnel workers play a unique and essential role in the personal and academic development of our students. These dedicated professionals do an outstanding job nurturing the growth, maturity, and responsibility that adulthood and good citizenship require. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of St. Mary's County recognizes May 6, 2020 as Pupil Personnel Worker Day in St. Mary's County Public Schools, and that all staff and students are encouraged to recognize this event and participate in this observance. Signed this 6th day of May 2020. And I would just again like to echo that these are essential services that the school systems provide to wrap around our students. The school nurses, the pupil personnel workers, and all of the attendant staff that make sure that any barriers to learning are being addressed in some appropriate fashion. And just thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Long.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful photograph.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and I have one more thing just to add regarding recognitions. Last week was school media specialist, librarian. So Mrs. Walthen, who is the media specialist at Letty Marshall Dent
Yes.
Elementary School, was selected as one of the Maryland School Librarians of the Year. So,
Excellent.
Yes.
Well
so
deserved.
congratulations to her.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's see. We do not have a public hearing, and as far as I understand, we do not have any public comment at this point in time. Okay. And then we will move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor, I have to do roll call. Rita?
Yes.
Kathy?
Aye.
Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
And myself is aye. All right, motion is carried. So first up on our action items list is textbook adoption for social studies, and we have Mr. Wright with us.
And Mr. Wright, you're going to have to indulge me just 1 second. And there we go. And I share it. And slideshow. Good afternoon, Mr. Wright.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Fantastic.
To make sure this is a smooth process, you want me to say forward?
You just say forward, and I'm your guy.
All right. That's great. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The purpose of the presentation is to provide an overview of the social studies textbook adoption process for grade 6, 7, grade 10, 11, in AP Economics and AP Comparative Government, with the ultimate goal of seeking the board's approval for the adoption of the textbooks and related materials. As you can see, it's been 18 years since we've gone through a textbook adoption for grade 6, 10, and 11, and 9 years for AP Comparative Government and Politics and AP Economics. And during that time, there's been significant curriculum and instructional shifts. Forward. I just want to highlight a couple of the curriculum instructional shifts because this served as a guiding instrument in going through the textbook adoption. One of the major shifts was when Maryland adopted the C3 framework, which we call the College, Career, and Civic Life Framework. And within there, they outlined several major pillars which caused us to have major instructional shifts in regards within the classroom instruction, as well as when you're looking at state assessments. One of the pillars that are significant with the 2015 document was going to an inquiry instructional model, which is centered on essential questions and supporting questions. The other major pillar that helped serve this during our textbook adoption is with a focus on disciplinary literacy skills. And the third one is specific action. And as a result of this curriculum document that was developed in 2015, locally, we made changes to our instructional practices with a heavy focus on disciplinary literacy skills, as well as our lesson planning design, which focused on a document-based inquiry model, which is based off sound research from Stanford History Education Group. And recently, Maryland Department of Education has partnered with Stanford History Education in regards to this. So all of this helped us during the textbook adoption. And as a result of the C3 framework, Maryland in 2017 revised their Goal 6 skills and process that focused on disciplinary literacy skills and an inquiry model. And as a result of those changes, in 2018, Maryland revised its American government curriculum and developed a brand new curriculum for modern world history. Furthermore, over this past year, Maryland has updated its American government assessment that now places a significant emphasis on disciplinary literacy skills. Besides just changes at the state level, there's also been changes at the national level with the AP College Board, AP Comparative Government and AP Economics now places a heavy emphasis on practices and skills. For example, when you're looking at AP Economics, practices that are really emphasized in the curriculum as well as on assessment is concept application, comparison, data analysis, source analysis, and argumentative writing. And when you're looking at the AP Economics, which consists of macro and microeconomics, again, the practices associated with the principles and modules, interpretation, and visuals and graphing. And all of these played a major role when you're looking at for our textbook adoption process. Forward, please. So when you're looking at the textbook adoption process, it's really divided into 3 phases. The first phase was establishing the committees, in particular the steering committee. The steering committee was responsible for developing the rubric and narrowing the choices down. Phase 2 was the main committee, and they were responsible for today making a recommendation to the board. The steering and the main committees included a variety of stakeholders, including teachers, school-based administrators, parents, equity assurance coordinator, myself. Also, both committees seek input from students, in particular from the student member of the board, as well as the St. Mary's Association Student Council President, and it also participated in both committees. Now, the final phase, which is not in the PowerPoint, but phase 3 was probably the most significant hurdle we had to overcome, which was actually with a press release and asking for public feedback about the textbooks. And all the major obstacle is because of this closing of the public libraries. So we had a coordinated efforts with the publishers, with the Division of Instruction, and we actually put the public comment up on the website where community actually had to go online for to review the textbook. And that was the first time in St. Mary's County, to my knowledge, that we actually had to think about alternative ways. So that required a coordinated effort from multiple stakeholders. And as of this morning, or even this afternoon, there have not been any public feedback regarding the textbook adoption process. Forward. Purpose of this slide is I really just want to highlight that through this textbook adoption process, this was a very extensive process as we reviewed multiple textbooks from the different publishers through the steering committee phase, as well as when you get into the main committee where you had the vendors come to the different meetings to share their textbooks, either at the steering committee level or through a webinar, and we've definitely got to the main committee level. The final two presented their textbooks again to us. But it just shows through the meetings everyone's willingness and commitment to engage in the textbook process, and including a variety of stakeholders. When you're looking at this, when you're reviewing the textbook, we used a rubric. And the rubric was divided into 5 components. First component was the content and alignment, where we looked at whether textbooks aligned to the standards, either through the Maryland State Department of Education standards or the AP standards. Did the textbook present the content at an appropriate depth, develop the social studies concepts? 2 was the organization and the presentation. It focused on the layout of the textbook, on its consistency, whether the textbook was visually appealing and interesting to the intended audience. And this is where, when we look at their students' input, that was the focus of their phase when you're looking at the organization and presentation to get their perspective, since they will be the targeted audience. 3, when you're looking at instructional design, this component centered on looking at the C3 framework in particular, where you look at the inquiry model and the disciplinary literacy skills. And again, the key thing with the instructional shifts, going back to other slides, was with the C3 framework and with goal 6, where now you do have a heavy emphasis on reading, thinking, and writing aspect of it. And 4 was the assessments. Did the textbooks at the AP level and within the core social study courses, did they provide formative and summative assessments? In more detail, we were looking for assessments that aligned to what we call the evidence-based argument set, which is tied back to goal 6, again, which emphasized students using multiple sources to generate an argument. And with the assessments, looking for assessments that align to the free response questions for the AP level. In addition, we were seeking a textbook in the materials that offers a variety of assessments to meet the needs of our diverse learners. And the last component is dealing with equity and accessibility. This component centered on looking at universal design for learning principles and differentiated instruction, and whether or not the resources have a balanced representation of people or cultures and points of view when addressing various social studies concepts, as well as looking at controversial issues in the hard histories that we've addressed in social studies classrooms. When you're taking, next slide, please. When taking this into consideration, I would like to highlight the textbooks that the main committee selected for the core social studies courses. And in front of you, you're looking at this is grade 6, grade 7, grade 10, and grade 11. And the textbook that the main committee selected was Pearson. Forward, please. I just want to highlight, when you're looking at Pearson, doesn't matter if you're looking at grades, the Ancient Civilization textbook or the Modern World Geography textbook or the American Government textbook or the Modern World History. All the textbooks focus each chapter around essential questions, which is essential when you're looking at with the adoption of the C3 framework, because each essential question is open-ended. And through that open-ended question, it allows students to explore more of an inquiry model as they're examining primary and secondary sources. So that's one of the key elements when you're looking at the adoption for the core social study courses. Another thing I want to highlight are the quests. The quests are in each of the textbooks, and there are activities that are designed around the C3 framework, where students, again, are presented with an essential or compelling questions, supporting questions, and they're provided with primary and secondary sources that allow them to analyze with the disciplinary literacy practices and using the disciplinary literacy tools. And through the evaluation of the primary and secondary sources, they're able to generate and communicate their conclusions using the argumentative writing aspect. And that was one of the major selling points was with the quest activities. In addition, you're looking at the informational text and with the guided reading, with informational text, the vocabulary and the central terms are very well highlighted within the textbook, and there's context built around those particular terms in each of the textbooks. In addition, when you look at the informational text, another thing that was highlighted when looking at the notes, from not only just from the students' perspective, but also from the teacher's perspective and the parent's perspective, is that with the informational text, students have the capability online to add their own notes, highlight, and through that, after they finish, they're able to download their notes into a Word document or transferring their notes into their Google folder using their school email account. Now, in addition to that, when you're looking at, there's also guided reading questions that are built in there for to assist with scaffolding and address the different depths of knowledge. Also, when you look at the textbook with the visual sources, not only do you have most of the time, we're looking at social studies, but you just have maps, but there's graphs, there's infographics, all of those elements in there to provide a different way for students to gain access to the content knowledge. Also, the other element is with the online instructional platform. It's very accessible for students and for teachers. And with the online platform, students have access to the videos through NBC Learning. In addition, they have what they call flipped classrooms, flipped videos, which can be used in multiple ways. They can serve as a review activity that culminates at the end of the chapter, or a teacher could actually use that at the beginning of instruction to kind of give a general overview before they go more in depth of that aspect. With the online instructional platform, teachers are also provided with instructional seeds to serve as a basis for lesson planning and design. Teachers also have access to assessments, both formative and summative assessments within that platform. Now, when you're looking at for blended learning, with the blended learning, you can go to the next one. Sorry, you can go.
Okay.
You can go there. With the blended learning, the other thing I would emphasize with the blended learning, that besides everything, they'll have the e-textbook and all of those components of it, but there's also teachers and students will have an app, it's called a Bounce app, that allows them to download the textbook onto any device, and they can use that textbook and the videos online or offline completely.
That's fantastic.
And that's significant when you're looking at students maybe not have access to the internet at home. As long as that book is downloaded initially while they're online and they go offline, they will have complete access to every single video. And if they have assignments, they're able to do the assignments. As soon as they come back online, those assignments will be populated and sent to the classroom teacher. When you're looking at student and teacher components, with the teacher components, they'll get a hard copy of the textbook, as well as the online instructional seeds, like I mentioned earlier, the videos, all the quests, different instruction resources. In particular, they will have access to what they call active instructional strategies, which is about 48 instructional strategies that have been circumvented that focus on the inquiry model and directly align with the universal design for learning. Also meeting to offer strategies and resources that can be modified by the classroom teacher. In addition, when you're looking at for textbook, for student materials, grades 6 and 7, classroom teachers elected, voted on this, that they wanted classroom sets for 6th and grade 7. In addition, we did recommend purchasing additional textbooks for students that maybe need a hard copy for a variety of reasons. For the high school level, for grade 10 and grade 11, the teachers elected for 1-to-1, so every student would receive a textbook for grade 10 and grade 11. In addition, for interactive with the online 6 years license, every student in grade 6, grade 7, grade 10, and grade 11 would have the online access, and that's for 6 years. And within that online access, they will have the Atlas, all access to primary sources, all the quests, NBC video clips, and audio edition program to where actually it reads to the student. who need that assistance. Next, please. Now, when you're looking at for the AP textbooks, the committee selected for AP Economics, the Krugman Economics for AP History, and for AP Comparative, the Essentials of Comparative Politics with Cases. Forward, please. A couple things I'm going to highlight with when you're looking at for the AP Economics textbooks. One of the things that stood out to the teachers in that process was the real life application and the scenarios that are in the AP Economics textbook. And in addition, when you're looking at the real life applications, it makes the content more relevant, more practical for when you're looking at for that particular course. In addition to that, with the AP Economic textbook, the information was chunked, making it more manageable as they investigate and examine those very complex topics within that field of study. They also provide AP tips for students as they prepare for that national exam. And when you're looking at the, back up please, sorry. When you're looking at for the AP Comparative Government, AP Comparative Government was very similar. The AP Comparative Government, the information was chunked. And the other thing that really highlighted were the case study models, which are essential for that particular course. Students are required to examine certain countries that are expressed in the AP College Board. So each case study is repetitive in the sense of the format, which makes it very accessible for the student in a very concise and logical manner. The last thing with the blended learning. Blended learning, again, in both textbooks, even though they're different companies, students will have access to the ebook, PowerPoints, multiple media learning tools with the videos, art slides, quizzes, case, also for the AP Comparative, with case study quizzes. In addition, they have what they call adaptive learning quizzes. And with that if a teacher assigns it and the students are excelling in that, they will actually, that quiz will be a little bit more challenging for them, so we increase more the depth of knowledge. Vice versa, the student is struggling a little bit with the content, it would actually lower the depth of knowledge to meet the student where they are. And that's key because that will have an impact when you're looking at making informed instructional decisions in the classroom for the next day. And we use the comparative quizzes actually for AP World History that was adopted several years ago. Next, forward please. For the AP Economics and AP Comparative Government, teachers elected to have a 1-to-1 ratio when you're looking at for textbook adoption for those particular courses. With the teacher materials, when you're looking at that, teacher will get a teacher edition book as well as all the online components of it. That includes instructional seeds, videos, assessment resources, visual aids. And for the student side, they would get the interactive ebook. Again, that will allow them to take notes within there, and they're able to download it and all of those elements of it. They would get the learning curve adapted quizzing, the videos, and the sectional overview videos also. Forward, please. Next step, tentatively, is kind of hinging on what was stated earlier with the new executive order. Currently working with the different publishers to schedule a PD session through a webinar. That was kind of already decided several weeks ago for June 23rd. And then another professional development scheduled for August 26th for teachers. So that's the next step if it's approved. The next, when you're looking at cost, kind of go through each one. When you're looking at for ancient civilization for grade 6, the modern world geography for 7, American government for grade 10, and the modern world history for grade 11. Each student, when you're looking at for high school, each student would get a textbook. Teachers will also get the teacher resources and the 6-year online textbook option. For middle school, the difference with middle school is that we went with classroom sets, and that was voted on by the teachers as the most, that was the best way. They thought when you're looking at instruction aspects within the classroom is going with that model. And that's what they've been currently been using for the last, well, definitely for the last 10 years. So they thought that was continue with that particular approach. So that's for the Pearson. For the AP Economics textbook, which is crewman, each student would get a textbook. Teachers also would get all the resources available, and both student and teacher would get a 6-year license. And for AP Comparative Government and Politics, which we only have one course, that's actually at Leonardtown High School with the GIS program. Each student would get a textbook, same thing, teacher resources, and both parties would get a 6-year online license. And then the last is dealing with, is dealing with materials for the processing of barcoding elements of it. And the board recommend the approval of this agenda item as presented.
Rita, do you have any questions?
Thank you so much for sending me the link to be able to view each of these textbooks. I did have the opportunity to go through them. I will say that your committee did a fabulous job really thinking of everything that the students may need, whether it's downloading and working offline and then coming back and having it automatically upload whatever work they've done. Also, being able to write notes and have that combine into one Google area for notes for them. I did have a question on that. Are they, when you type in, when they're taking notes, does that page, does that page show up in their notes so that they know where they've taken notes so they're not rewriting everything?
Yes, it will actually earmark that page for the student.
Okay. Are they able to highlight?
Yes.
That's okay, great. And also access at home. If they do have internet access at home, are they able to view the video clips and things like that from home?
Yes, if they have internet access at home, they can view the video clips. Even if they do not have access to internet at home, as long as that book is downloaded, they will still be able to view the video clips.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have a follow-up question too. For that downloaded book, does it have to be on a school system computer? So then how do I control a seat license to it?
As long as they would use through our St. Mary's County Public Schools email account, and they were able to download it.
Right, but so I'm buying, if I'm doing one-to-one textbooks to everyone in 10th and 11th grade, then for each year I have it, I'm also buying an additional seat license to go along with those books. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, at the end of the year, they would actually lose their ability to access that textbook.
Right, but if they've downloaded the book onto their computer, then how, I've downloaded a book and now I have it on my own personal computer. So the book, I can always have now the book for the rest of my life on that computer, correct? Is the way I'm understanding it.
Not with the Bounce app.
Okay. So do you have to have something additional open in order to access the book when it's downloaded?
Yes, you got to have the Bounce app, which is offered by Pearson, which is a free device for us, free app for us.
Okay. All right. And then, so and how much do the students actually use the online feature of during the class or at home? I mean, we don't track
it varies from student to student, and a lot of it depends on the classroom teacher on you assigning assignments through the online platform.
Okay. And then for the AP classes, since we have like a 6-year cycle or even longer, does the online learning continually update? And the only reason I'm asking this, like my daughter's in AP Gov now, so the book that we have I was pretty much told on the first day of school is not good, and to get her this other one. So, because it's more current. So as we go through the online learning on the, AP, or the economics really hasn't changed in 50 years in reality, but the comparative politics, I'm assuming that cases and things like that are updated frequently. So are they updated to update current
They will
trends?
provide extra resources or links to more of the current information,
Okay,
but they're not going to, with the online platform, when you're looking at the e-text, they're not going to update that portion, but they do provide supplementary resources for more current information.
okay, right. So that's my question. So as, as politics around the world changes and whatever might be reflected on the AP test, the online learning piece would capture those updates throughout
Yes,
the course
through external, a teacher can also add external links to more current information, just like you would for AP, American government, or even American government, in that sense, to make the content more relevant for the student. But in regard to AP comparative government, those 6 case countries,
Right.
They do not change at all.
Okay, but conditions within those countries may change, which may alter the
Yes.
The information on the AP test, which then would be able to be updated with that.
When you're looking at for AP comparative government, and even for economics, the examples that they will use are not the most current
Okay.
examples, something that
Okay.
maybe happened a year ago. You're looking at probably, from a historical lens, you're looking at probably 5 years. The tests are not designed for more of a contemporary issues class.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kathy.
Given that for the middle school students, you're looking at just getting classroom sets, has that presented a problem at all in these last several weeks with students trying to work online for their classes?
Not on my, they do not foresee that being a problem, going with hard text or classroom set textbooks at all.
Okay. That's all I wanted.
Nagina?
Mr. Wright, I was quite interested in what you were saying earlier about when you're giving instruction, you're allowing the students to answer questions. Is that interactive?
Yes, when you're looking at when the instructional design now is built off an inquiry model, where it's more of an open-ended question. For example, in the American government, one of the first topics they discuss what is the purpose of government, and through that analysis of that question, students are examining multiple primary and secondary sources to be able to generate their own opinion and argument on for example, what is the purpose of government.
Sounds like a Socratic type of...
Yes, it is. The C3 is built off a Socratic seminar approach.
Very good. That's all I have.
All right. Now, Nagina.
So I was
Nagina.
So I was actually on the committee for reviewing the modern world history and the American government textbooks for high school. So this was actually my pick for the textbook, the Pearson one, because it just looked a lot more visually appealing, especially because history can get boring if you're like.
Oh, don't say that. No.
But this one had, big text.
I'm gonna have to talk to I have to tell Mr. Cropper about that.
But yeah, and it had a lot of good online resources like raps. It had history raps. Like I didn't even know those were a thing, but I listened to those, and yeah, so that's very interesting for students. But that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mary.
Okay, and Mr. Wright, I want to thank you for your hard work because you had many committee meetings and you had a balanced representation of people on your committee and you had a thorough review. Also, you made an excellent shift to the change in times with COVID-19 where the textbooks were not available, of course, in the libraries because the libraries were closed So what you did, you came up with an effort to put those textbooks online for public input. So thank you for making that excellent shift. Also, I like that students could download the textbooks and the videos, and there's online access for 6 years. And the AP tips for the exam, so students could be well prepared for those exams. So you did a wonderful job and a thorough presentation to the board. So thank you very much, Mr. Wright.
Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion?
I move that the
I
Board of
move that-
Education approve the adoption of secondary social studies and advanced placement textbooks and corresponding instructional materials as presented from the publishers Pearson, W.W. Norton Company, Bedford, Freeman and Worth, and the cross-docking materials from Follett at an approximate cost of $567,942.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor? Rita?
aye.
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 And myself. All right, motion's passed. Thank you very much, Mr. Wright.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. McCourt and Dr. Walker.
The reason I did that was that motion was changed between the time that we started the meeting and so that was.
Gotcha.
Good afternoon.
Good
We
afternoon.
have before you a recommendation for a contract amendment for the current fiscal year for our 12-month employees. On April 15th, you modified the school calendar, and this resulted in, on April 28th, a previously scheduled day off for employees becoming a workday. The ESMIC, ESP, and SMASA 12-month employee contracts call for 249 workdays. The addition of April 28th results in 250 workdays for the 12-month employees. And my colleague, Dr. Walker here, recognized this and recommended that we proactively amend the contract. This was not a request that was submitted by ESMIC or SMASA. However, Dr. Walker and I reached out to both UNISERV representatives and the ESMIC and SMASA president, who were very appreciative and supportive of the recommended amendment of a one-time annual leave increase of 1 additional day in fiscal 2020 for 12-month employees, recognizing no adjustment to annual salary. Dr. Walker, did I miss anything there?
No, I think the key point here is that typically in a situation like this, we would adjust the calendar later in the year to provide an additional day off. But given the timing of this day, there are no days between April 28th and June 30th that could be reassigned as a 12-month employee day off. So that's why we're taking this alternate route to try to accommodate the increased number of workdays.
So at this time, we're requesting that the Board of Education approve this agenda item as presented.
All right, does anyone have any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyone?
No.
All right, may I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the recommendation of an amendment of their fiscal year 2020 employment contracts with the Education Association of St. Mary's County for certificated professionals, ESMIC certificated, Education Association of St. Mary's County for education support professional, ESMIC ESP, and St. Mary's Association of Supervisors and Administrators, SMASA, to credit 1 additional day of annual leave to all 12-month employees employed with St. Mary's County Public Schools on April 28th in recognition of the calendar modification, which increased their number of work days from 249 to 250.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Rita?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, Tammy, we're just going to let you run the rest of the board meeting. So, next up is the Budget Adjustment Coronavirus Relief Fund. I'm talking very slowly so Dr. Smith can get the presentation up.
Hey, this is a lot of complex
stress,
juggling.
isn't
Look
it?
at all these things I have open, for goodness sakes.
I know.
Then you got to go and open the slideshow, and there we go. All right.
You're multi-talented.
Yeah, I'm certainly something.
If I could ask you to go on to the next slide, please. So we provided you with a briefing at your last meeting on April 29th on the availability of funding. And as a reminder, the Coronavirus Relief Fund is available for COVID-19 related expenses to states, tribal governments, territories, and local governments. So this is the county government allocation of funding. And the funding available to St. Mary's County government and health department was $19.8 million available for them to apply for. St. Mary's County Public Schools originally crafted a request totaling $8.3 million, and during the course of several conversations with the county administrator and the county government CFO, we submitted an amended request for consideration of $5.4 million. Of this $5.4 million, $58,863 was actually put forth on behalf of St. Mary's County Public Schools to cover the costs incurred directly for public health needs. Before you is an update that was provided to the Board of County Commissioners by the County Health Officer and the County Administrator. Dr. Smith, do you want to go into any of the details on this particular slide?
Well, so, and I was following along and watching this remotely as they talk through, and I had conversations with Dr. Bridget. I've had conversations with Dr. Brewster, and what we see before us is that they took the $19 million, divided it into. Said half was responsible from the local health officer, Dr. Brewster was to oversee, and then half was to the county. The county did push over many of their related costs that they believe that they have incurred and believe will incur. That's the $2 million, the $1.998105 that's afforded under the public health portion. That leaves $7.9 million worth of unassigned funds in public health, and obviously they want to maintain a pretty healthy balance there, because who knows what the expenses might come up with vaccines and comprehensive testing, and where we might find ourselves in the next coming months. Regardless, they have to spend these funds by December 2020. The other side of the balance sheet is what the county is proposing will be their costs to cover the coronavirus COVID outbreak over from March until December 2020. So they are stating that they're going to spend $285,000 in aging and human services, $41 for elections, a small amount for the circuit court, $2 million worth of economic development, $110 for emergency services, $11,000 for public works, $3,000 for social services, $134 for human resources, $3 million for IT. And as was expressed during the meeting, this is to expand the middle mile, making sure that we have high-speed internet coverage for the more far-flung portions of the county that don't have any internet access right now. There's also a $200,000 grant, $300,000 that they're applying for as well. $1 million for Metcom. The money for the sheriff that the sheriff will incur is already pushed over to Dr. Brewster's portion of the budget. Leonardtown gets $1,100 and the treasurer gets $7,000. $70,000, pardon me. So that rolls out. The challenge that I think is that we're going to see is that all of these, they're not being funded up front. The county must spend all of this money and then apply it for a reimbursement.
Cost reimbursement basis.
Cost reimbursement basis. And
that's what you're looking for.
Yes, cost reimbursement basis. And that's why we originally put forth the request for $5 million worth of computers, because we know we can go out and purchase them and then have them eligible as a reimbursable cost. So I look forward to seeing how the county puts forth this money, how they spend $18 million between now and December that ultimately will be eligible for reimbursement, as they've excluded the $5 million that we've requested. The correspondence that did go to the governor did say that We indeed had requested the money, and it included the request in the overall amount. It just said, unfortunately, the $19 million wasn't enough to cover the local health share, the county government's anticipated costs, and so the school system was only eligible for a $58,000 portion of that $20 million. Mrs. McCourt, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered that fairly well. Thank you.
All right, does anyone have any questions?
I was also struck by the conversation that went on as this item was discussed yesterday. As I said earlier in my board report, the reimbursement we'll get is for expenditure on gloves, masks, sanitizers. Having heard what the state superintendent said today about no school through the end of this school year, and it looking very, very different when we start school again in the fall, I am very concerned about our students being able to have the resources they need in order to get online to do the learning that they will clearly need to do. I commend Mrs. McCourt for the very, very, very detailed information that she provided to the county, line by line, to the dollar of what the cost would be, and juxtapose that with the what I saw in the county's board docs yesterday of most of their lines were to be determined, to be determined, to be determined. I very much appreciate the work that went into the exhibit that you provided to the county and ultimately to the governor's office for what we needed. I know we'll be able to purchase some computers with the education portion that will come to us, but it will not purchase the number of computers we're going to need. I look at those computers almost as issuing textbooks to students. We're not going to be issuing textbooks. We should be issuing computers and computer access. I do hope that as time goes on, that perhaps things may change and county government might see fit to help us with some additional computers. So that's it.
Anyone have anything else? All right, may I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the presented increase in the restricted budget for FY 2020 and approve submittal of this budget adjustment to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County for their approval as required by the Annotated Code of Maryland.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, roll call. Rita?
Yes.
Kathy?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Myself as an aye. Motion is passed. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
McCourt. And just roll right on to your next one.
All right, so the next one
Oh, wait,
is
Scott's
the
behind.
budget adjustment elementary and secondary. So it's budget. This is
While
yeah.
Dr. Smith is pulling that up, I have one point to make on all three of these budget adjustments. We have been notified of the dollar amounts. However, they still need to go through the application process. Therefore, we're getting your approval to be proactive. So as soon as we get the award notification, we can immediately send it over to the county commissioners for their approval and action.
Gotcha.
So this one is for the fiscal year 20 budget amendment for the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund, which is yet another component of the CARES Act. The education stabilization fund consists of three components, and specific to local education agencies is the elementary and secondary school emergency relief, also known as the ESSER fund. MSDE filed an application with the United States Department of Education on April 24th, 2020, and received a most immediate approval by the federal government on April 29th, 2020. The federal government is very anxious to get these monies out into the communities for immediate use. MSDE provided notification to all LEAs on May 1st, 2020 of the availability of $187 million to the state of Maryland. And the portion of that available to St. Mary's County is $2.5 million. This replaces the estimate that was previously reported by the Maryland Department of Legislative Services of $2.9 million. And I want to reemphasize that because that has been the number that has been floating around the community quite a bit. Additionally, of that $2.5 million, there is a component that we are required to set aside for equitable services for our non-public schools. And that dollar amount, I've calculated it to be $263,127. Next slide, please. So we have to provide equitable services under the grant to students and teachers in non-public schools as required under the CARES Act. The non-public schools were provided notification of the opportunity to participate on May 1st. I literally received the application from MSDE at 1:30, and I had a notification out to every non-public school in our community by 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. We received, as I stated, the intent on May 4th, and we requested that the non-publics provide us their intent to participate by May 4th, which was Monday. And then we calculated and provided a notification to those that were interested in participating of their allocation and availability of funding by end of business yesterday. We received the specifics of the non-public schools' intended use of funds in alignment with the allowable uses guidance, and we requested that those be provided to us by tomorrow. And we also notified them that the control of funds for these services and the title to materials, equipment, and property purchased with these funds must reside with SMCPS, and that is in alignment with the CARES Act. And what that means, I cannot physically disperse to them the funds. I have to maintain control of the funds, and I have to make the purchases on their behalf. If they wish to purchase any technology, they have to have an SMCPS asset tag on it. Next slide. Our application is due to MSDE by May 15th. We actually have our component of the application already completed. We're just waiting for the non-public information so that we can incorporate that in ours. So we plan on submitting our application to MSDE by May 8th. So at this time, we're requesting budgetary approval of $2,574,252. Are there any questions?
Do we need to approve what their amount is, the non-public amount, to change that total amount, or just what our input is?
We need to approve the entire amount. So we are we will be managing the entire budget.
Okay.
All of those funds will be flowing through us.
Okay.
So then do we approve the individual contracts as they come? Well, I don't know. I mean, no one will exceed whatever our approval limit is for purchases, an individual school, correct?
It depends on whatever the purchases are being requested. The majority of ours, of course, are going towards laptops. So you've already previously approved the laptop contract with Dell. And as far as the $263,000, as long as they are following our purchasing protocols, whether we're following our purchasing protocols, that will dictate whether it comes before the board or not for approval.
And what's the total number of private schools or non-public, whatever the wording is, that is included in this?
There are 11.
Okay.
Given that we have to retain title to all of these things that are for the non-publics, and given that they'll all be tagged with SMCPS tags, what happens when those items are no longer in use by the non-public? They'll have to revert to us. They can't sell them on the open market. And so
that is correct. They would revert to us.
Presumably, we will come up with, or the attorney will come up with some sort of memorandum of understanding or contract that we would hold with each of these non-publics to spell out how those resources will be handled and then revert when they're no longer in use?
That will be clearly communicated. They are already absolutely aware of the requirements.
Okay. All right. And when, no, that's all right. That's all.
Jim, Mary, Nagina?
No questions.
I want to thank Tammy for the quick turnaround time to get the information to the non-public schools. That was a lot of work in a short period of time. And thank you very much for being resilient and flexible to be able to do that in a short period of time. Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the presented increase in the restricted budget for fiscal year 2020 and approve submittal of this budget adjustment to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County for their approval as required by the Annotated Code of Maryland.
Do you have a second?
Second?
All those in favor of roll call, Rita?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And myself as an aye, the motion is carried. Oh, let's see, what else do we have?
Thank you.
Children and Family Services, Head Start. Back to Tammy.
Waiting for Dr. Smith to bring this one up. I wanted to point out on the ESSER funds that you just approved, we are actually able to spend those through September 30th of 2022. However, we plan on taking immediate action on the laptop purchases.
Okay.
The next budget adjustment is for the Children and Family Services Program, the Head Start Supplemental Grant under the CARES Act as well. The Children and Family Services Program consists of funding for the Head Start program to support a summer program in the amount of $500 million at the federal level, as well as additional supplemental funding, $250 million, managed by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. SNCPS filed a notification of interest to apply for both of these grants on April 8th, 2020. A notification of the appropriation available to SNCPS under the supplemental grant was received on May 2nd in the amount of $47,850. The supplemental funds are for one-time actions or activities to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19 for Head Start. They may include costs necessary to maintain or resume the operation of the program. And SNCPS plans to dedicate the funds to the purchase of iPads and associated costs for Head Start students and staff. Our application is due to MSD by May 15th, and we plan to submit on May 8th. At this time, we're requesting your approval on the restricted fund budgetary approval in the amount of $47,850. Are there any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Jim, Mary?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the presented increase in the restricted budget for FY 2020 and approve submittal of this budget adjustment to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County for their approval as required by the Annotated Code of Maryland.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Roll call, Rita?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And myself is aye. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Okay. And Tammy? You again, the April financial report. I will talk very slowly as Scott pulls it
Hey,
up.
look at how quick that was. That's super fast. I'm good.
And give me just a second because I can't see that one. I'm going to bring up my own version. I apologize, I should have had that prepared. The revenue report as of April 24th, as we had to finalize the report before our first pay run on May, the balance is $19.2 million, and year-to-date, we've received $207.3 million, representing 91.52% of our budget. On the expenditure side, we have encumbrances of outstanding of $58.8 million. Encumbrances and expenditures to date total $219.5 million, and our available balance is $7 million, representing 96.91% of our budget. Are there any questions? There are no areas of concern.
No
Anyone?
questions.
No.
Mary or Jim? Nagina?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Does anyone have anything else?
No.
All right, our next board meeting will be on May 20th, 2020, scheduled right now for 6 o'clock. Once again, watch for the press release in case the time changes, since we have no student or personnel recognition, so there's no need to have a late board meeting. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.